Hello everybody, and welcome to the new Mindscape. In this video, I'm going to be talking about Durkheim and the magic of ritual. Emile Durkheim was one of the founding fathers of both sociology and anthropology, and he's the author of the classic study, The Elementary Forms of Religious Life. And basically, Durkheim considered that ritual is not only the basic form of religion, but even the foundation of society. If we look at the most ancient or the most ancient societies of the world, or the different tribal societies, we're likely to find a heavy ritual activity, which is central to social life. For Durkheim, these types of rituals gave rise to organized human society. It's through these rituals that society forms, reproduces, and strengthens itself. Durkheim talked about the feeling of collective effervescence, which is produced by intense group rituals. The rhythmic coordination of bodies forms a higher order social body. And so Durkheim concluded that such rituals are the foundation of organized social life. And, he claimed, the power and energy experienced by the participants are the origins of the sense of a transcendent reality, what we call the sacred or the divine. The for example, which we considered in a previous video, were hunters and gatherers. Most of the time they were dispersed all over the place in small groups, gathering plants to eat or hunting animals. It's when they had these rituals that everybody came together, and during the rituals they were so perfectly synchronized in their movements that society became one body at that movement. The entire community literally became one synchronized body. I think most of you celebrate the Chinese New Year or festivals such as Diwali, Eid, or Christmas. You have family gatherings during that festival. You meet many family members and relatives during that period, people that you may not see the rest of the year. There are relatives that you only see during important festivals or holidays. Sometimes they may even be relatives that you don't personally like. If it weren't for these important festivals, you'd probably never go and see them. We're certainly attached to our family and believe them to be important to us, but actually we don't necessarily have personal affinities with all of our family members. Indeed, we might even have rivalries with some of them or get along with some of them very poorly. So if we were allowed to simply see our relatives on a voluntary basis without being forced to during rituals and festivals, the extended family would probably disappear. And when we think of the happiness of the family, we often think about happy moments during these festivals, such as Chinese New Year or Christmas, when the atmosphere is joyful and full of energy. It's precisely this kind of events that creates a lot of the happiness that we associate with the family. So Durkheim argued that without rituals, families and societies would not sustain themselves as long-lasting institutions. Durkheim considered that through these rituals, the people actually worship society itself. For example, for the people, the divine power comes down as they engage in the ritual. All religious rituals involve connecting with some sort of divine or spiritual power. It's the worship of that power that glues members of the group together. The don't dance simply because they love dancing or love being in each other's company. It's about connecting with or worshiping this power, this God, this totem, as to use the term that Durkheim used. For Durkheim, it's actually the congregating around that God or totem that makes society. When people get together for the ritual and get so excited, they literally feel a certain power, which Durkheim called collective effervescence. This energy, this excitement, which, as the Chinese say, it's je now, right? It's hot and noisy. Durkheim argued that the primitive people thought this energy was a supernatural power, the power of the gods. whereas in fact, it's the power of society, the excitement generated when the community comes together for the ritual. But the people worship this social energy in the form of a god or totem. Thus, society turns itself into an object of consciousness in the form of the god, and then it worships itself through the ritual. So what happens is a good example of Sartre's magic at a collective level. The god or the totem is an object of consciousness that is shared by all members of the group. Through the ritual, all members of the group engage with the same object of consciousness at the same time in a coordinated fashion. They empower the object of consciousness and attribute the energy of the gathering to the object of consciousness. Thus, the object of consciousness, the god, exercises magical power over the members of the group. Chinese religion is a pretty good illustration of Durkheim's point. If a Chinese god is considered to be very powerful, Chinese people might say that the god is very ling, which means that it has strong spiritual power. Now, how can people judge whether the god is powerful, ling, or not? Well, one way is based on the popularity of the god's temple. The more worshippers there are, the more powerful the god is considered to be. On the other hand, if there aren't many worshippers going to a temple, people might think that the god in the temple isn't very powerful. It's not very ling. So, therefore, the Chinese temple is a very good illustration of Durkheim's point. The more social energy there is, the more powerful the god, and the less social energy there is, the less powerful the god. But on the other hand, the worship of these gods can't be attributed only to the power of society. To go back to a Chinese example, the cult of most Chinese gods doesn't start with large crowds generating collective effervescence. It usually starts with some unusual occurrence and with one person experiencing the power of a spirit and starting to burn incense for that spirit at a certain spot. And then a few others do too, and they experience this power through healing or some other good fortune. And then a few more people come, and only later do many people come to worship and build a temple at that spot. So at the beginning, it's not society worshiping itself. In the case of the Kung rituals, what the dancers experience is also more than the power of society. It's more than simply collective effervescence. They literally enter into a trance. Their body and their consciousness is transformed. Something happens to their state of consciousness as well as to the state of their body. They enter what is called an altered state of consciousness. Their perception changes and they become different from their normal state. Their mindscape is completely altered. So what kind of transformation is going on during this kind of ritual? Well, during these rituals, the individual mindscape is transformed into a collective mindscape, and this collective mindscape puts the individual and the group within a broader, imagined cosmic or divine order. On the one hand, they're transformed by aligning their mindscape with the imagined cosmic order. At the same time, by taking part in the ritual, people bond with the social group literally and physically. They become incorporated into the social body.